We will start this IUC review session, the online session for the Global South. First of all, welcome all of you to participate in this session. This is very much appreciated. The objectives of today are to provide a restitution of some of the evaluations of IUCs and networks that are currently in a phase out. They finalized their 10-year program recently, and we want to have an open brainstorm along a number of questions, but also there is also the possibility, of course, to ask questions to the evaluator who will present the restitution session. And the idea of all of this, we organized a session last week in Brussels, is to be able to integrate the lessons learned and from the discussions from last week and from today into our new IUC call that we are launching soon in view of new programs to start up in 2026. All of this we're doing with our broader ambitions. We want to, of course, to learn from these evaluations, but this can also be inspiring. And we also hope to connect more with our partners in the Global South, and so that we can really strengthen again our, let's say, our global network of partners. Last week, like I said, we had a session in Brussels. We were not able to organize it in a hybrid way. So that's why we decided to do a separate online session for the Global South. We had also some brainstorms. Some elements that we brainstormed were linked to, for instance, success factors in IUC coordination, the typical profile of IUC coordinators. We also discussed, but this was more specifically for the Flemish public, the necessary preconditions at the level of the Flemish coordinating institutes for IUC project management. We also had a specific session on the networks with some colleagues participating from Cuba who were coincidentally in Belgium. We also had a session dealing with institutional assessment and also discussed on how to develop a broad IUC consortium and on PhD trajectories. Of course, today we were not able to do all of this. This was a session of a full day. Today we only have a shorter time. So our planning was, well, I'm opening the session, but then I will give shortly the floor to Patrick Stoop from C-Level, from the consortium that led the 5 IUC and the 3 network evaluations in the past year. And he will bring a synthesis of lessons learned. And then we will shortly break up. Well, we have a Q&A on the so possibility to ask questions and to discuss with Patrick Stoop. But after that, we will break up, have a short break, and organize a number of guiding questions along a poll, if everything goes well, because we were testing a poll within Zoom, and sometimes there are some technical issues, but we have the questions and we will try to guide you through that via a poll. This will be facilitated by Laura Uaze, and the colleagues of l'IRUS will also come in to guide specific questions. So that is the idea, and then we will close the session afterwards. But the first thing then is to discuss on, to give the floor to Patrick Stoop from C-Level, and he will now share his screen. So if everything is okay, you don't see my screen anymore. So Patrick, the floor is yours.
Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So first of all of you, thank you a lot, and has been a pleasure and a privilege to be able to work with all of you. So I can confirm that we connected with many people. We learned a lot, and you have been inspiring us and to do this work and to look at these programs, and it was very interesting to look at it. So thank you, and let us go through them. So we are we just have a quick introduction. We'll go over the key elements of the program from from effectivity and impact view, from sustainability view, from leverages of success. We're looking at specific learning questions that had been identified at the start of the evaluation, and we look trying to recapitulate some conclusions and recommendations. So just to remind you, there was a evaluation of 8 programs, 5 IUC programs, 3 network programs. It was each time the second phase of the 10-12-year long-term partnership, and it covered 2, so 1 IUC program in Uganda, in Vietnam, 2 in Tanzania, 1 in Cuba, and then the network work programs in Vietnam, Ecuador, and Cuba. So key elements, let's start with the effectiveness and impact, and for the IUC programs. And essentially is that we saw important results, research and teaching capacity improved across all 5 IUC programs. Scientific quality and publications, there was an upswing in publications, scientific output improved, and also academic rigor and knowledge contributions were documented. And so these were fundamental elements. When we look at the institutional capacity, we were happy to see that all 5 IUC programs showcased improvements along all or most of the dimensions of capacity, and across different roles in the case of research, industry, collaboration, etc. And community engagement, outreach improved. For example, action research reduced distance in Uganda and Tanzania, connected the university with stakeholders. There were multiple partnerships that were supported in Cuba under the IUC programs. Technology and ICT were important factors of success and leverages to achieve that was found in Uganda, Tanzania, Vietnam, Cuba. That was a fundamental part of the whole program. And so this is a fundamental factor of success. When we look at the PhD trajectories and research uptakes, we saw several good practices that will be discussed later, but like, for example, short research cycles, etc. Challenges exist also, of course. And one of the things that came up regularly was an excessive workload of staff, expectations high, also for PhD candidates and coming back, and the need for sustained funding that will come back under the sustainability. And so overall, we can say that 5 IUC programs showed important achievements with strength and combining strengthened research and teaching abilities, improved scientific standards and scientific output, institutional capacity, institutional resilience improved across the different dimensions of institutional and organizational capacity. The steps were taken towards developing community involvement and the role of the university as an actor in development. Still a long way to go, but important steps taken. And technological integration, ICT, all of these combined demonstrate the effectiveness and the importance of IUC programs. When we go to network programs, we actually also find good results and impact on academic results and effects of staff and students. On society depends was less evident in Vietnam. In Ecuador is stronger in Cuba because of the strong involvement of government and the strong drive behind the whole network program. We found added value of network programs, in collaborative contexts, in competent representation, in communication was very important. The support to proficiency in English was strongly appreciated. And interesting is that we also found that the added value of networks programs was larger and stronger for the university partners that had less exposure. So to a certain extent, we can say that universities who had benefited from IUC programs before, through their participation in the network programs, also contributed to extending these improvements and these positive effects towards the other universities having joined the network in a later stage. If we go to sustainability, we find that a significant contribution to the sustainability at all levels in different dimensions. And that was, for example, we found enhanced recognition and support by government. We improved capacity to attract and manage funding sources, even if that remains an important challenge. And we found that the capacity, organizational, institutional capacity, improved across the full range of core capabilities of universities using the tool for appreciating and assessing organizational capacities and institutional capacity of universities. Of course, we do have to admit that there was not a real baseline study, so we have a backward comparison between what participants considered to the assessment, considered the situation 5 years at the start of the second phase and now, but that still demonstrates a strong appreciation and belief in improvement across all those dimensions, which is important and which shows the importance of a IUC that continues over time, and that you need the longer term of the program. And so financial sustainability, on the other hand, so the academic sustainability improved, but the financial sustainability clearly remains a challenge. So the improvement on academic sustainability comes from retainment of PhD graduates, enhanced capacity, teaching and research, etc. But the funding remains often depending of not always very sure and sufficient government funding, limited other sources of funding, and financial sustainability may jeopardize continuity of the enhanced performance levels. So that it remains a challenge for most of the universities. The network programs, looking at their sustainability, we also find that there are improvements in the network programs of the university systems that, for example, working through joint masters work and have an impact on the improvement, on procedures. When we look at the network approach and the network structure itself, it is less clear if that is sustainability, if network working will continue after the program. Academic sustainability seems to be well ensured, so we see something comparable as for the IUCs. And again, financial sustainability remains a challenge for the joint Master of Science programs. But on the other hand, we did find, for example, in Cuba, that commercialization of services and IT applications with the university setting up and participating companies, and having also from their additional sources of funding for the universities is contributing. If we try to review the leverages and factors of success, we found among them the following: the partnerships. And so a partnership paradigm between all stakeholders, both within, so we're now at the IUC, the responsibility and flexibility at all levels, the strong commitments by leadership and teams, and by the Flemish partners was fundamental. We found that coordination is essential, and certainly if the coordination is transparent and effective, that is felt by all projects, by all teams within the IUC program as being an important contribution. And so we highlight that the importance of this well-organized provision and transparent coordination structure, including the role, which is very important, of a dedicated program manager in the partner university in the south, is a fundamental element to as a kind of trio with both coordinators. A shared vision with long-term and strong leadership that is at the same time open to alternative ideas, that is open and flexible, but with a clear, strong leadership is fundamental, making sure that progress, following up on progress, intervening where is needed, but providing, empowering teams, all that is an important factor of this leadership. Government support, for example, in Uganda, Cuba, emergence of new government policies in Tanzania were also contributing factors to the success of the IUC programs. As we already said, flexibility and adaptability is key. That contributes to the resilience of the university, of the program, and is actually combined with this strong leadership that remains open. Essential is the commitment as well to connect between research and education, making sure that both are not competing, but are actually reinforcing each other and benefiting from each other is a fundamental factor. And so we must say that there is not just one leverage of success and not one just factor, but that success factors are interconnected. They combine strong partnership, effective coordination, that visionary leadership, but also government support is fundamental, links with the funding as well, being at the same time clear view and strong leadership, but still open and adaptable, and having a strong commitment to these collaborative practices and also to the transparent governance. All that contributed to a large extent to the success of the IUC programs. And so they are also fundamental elements to and guidance for the upcoming IUC programs. When we look at factors of success in the network programs, the investment in ICT equipment was clearly very important. The ICT infrastructure, the efforts in refining and enriching the content of the course, the willingness to review administrative practices, synergies with the initiatives, other programs, all that contributed to the success of network programs. Then we can zoom in a little bit deeper on three main learning questions that were agreed. The first learning question was about how to support PhD trajectories with the focus on optimizing diversity and inclusivity. So how you increase gender and leaving no one behind principles when setting up and implementing those PhD trajectories. And the evaluation found that there is limited specific or explicit focus or policy in the program regarding the equal participation of men and women in the PhD programs. There's not neither a special attention to actively attract disadvantaged groups and strengthen there. So in the policy, in the explicit strategies, this is what not very present. But at the same time, there was attention to improve equality in the numbers of selection. And that attention ensures that overall 30 to 50% of the selected candidates is female, and that there is improvement there. So it's not yet or partly institutionalized, but in practice there is clear attention to this equality in numbers of participants. There is still, and that is fundamental, there's a lack of upstream measures to create a diverse pool of potential PhDs. We don't want, and that was found that it is not always possible for local institutions to meet the diversity ambitions with the pool of PhDs and still upholding academic quality requirements and striving for excellence. And that's why we will then later on present some recommendations to make sure that the pool of potential PhD candidates, of qualified PhD candidates, is sufficiently diverse so that the selection will more likely be diverse as well. Second learning question is about the factors and measures, be there at VLIOS level or at partner institute level, that are supporting effective coordination of the program. So we already found, and it was clear that effective coordination is a fundamental factor. And what was then contributing to that good practices in coordination, again, it should be a multifaceted effort that requires a combination of what we could call hard and soft leverages. And the hardest leverage are more the procedures, the institutional rules, the etc., the division of roles, and the soft leverage is more the individual and personal skills, etc. So fundamental is that institutional support, transparent communication, inclusive decision-making where all teams are participating, a clear vision combined with flexibility is essential. The team should be committed, and the team must have also well-developed soft skills. And so those combined are essential. And we found that these lessons provide a framework for optimizing coordination in upcoming programs. We found that VLIOS already has an enabling environment, and so it is important to continue in this same approach and way. Then, stop moving, yes. We still found, moved up, yes. Then the third learning question, which is a strong one and an important one on which we have a lot of attention, is about the uptake of research results. How do you ensure that research is used? There is uptake in education, there is uptake in society, in economy, etc. And so we found that the sense of urgency, strong support of government in Cuba and Vietnam clearly facilitates this coherence, this collaboration with partners outside. And so societal and government actors may lack incentive to ask for, be informed about research findings that are relevant for them. So how do we increase the demand for research and information? So that is important from both sides. We saw that research that is focused on, is demand driven, and that is focused on direct solutions, is respond to specific needs of audiences, are, and that is logic, easier to be implemented in the workplace, and that are and if they are more technical in nature, they may have a higher probability for uptake if they respond to clearly identified reasons, needs, and if stakeholders are involved. So uptake based on pilot action research by more vulnerable groups require a multifaceted approach. And so that it really must be fit for purpose, and there is a needs-based research is only one component. It depends also working with the stakeholders. That means that this is not always a role for the universities itself, and that partnerships with other actors, potential intermediaries, need to receive sufficient attention from the start, the design of the interaction research and in the uptake strategies of the programs and of the universities. So making clear choices and prioritizing research topics is also important for the universities. Where do we want to make a difference? How can we do that? And how can we focus? And how does our research fits and also is tailored to our choices in external partnerships? So how do we link one and the other? Uptake of tech transfer and commercialization requires also additional financial means, institutional support. So we do think that tech transfer is important. We'll discuss about that right away. And so essential is that also that synergy between university work and donor programs, development programs in the country is difficult to realize, but it is important to search for. A strategy for uptake requires sufficient additional means and time alongside the PhD trajectory. And it is not, sometimes we find that the responsibility of uptake is too much with a PhD student, PhD fellow, and that would explain sometimes also the heavy burden. And so that should be thought through how that can be done, how you can have a uptake partner. Training of trainer could be more effective. We found some, but they were not always real. Training of trainers, that sometimes they lacked attention for andragogy and trying to see how it's not just about contents, but also the capacity of being a good trainer that needs to be instilled. So at the institutional level, we did find that there is a lack of institutional level strategy on uptake and a lack of alignment between program-specific approaches and university approaches. And so that are areas for further improvement. And embedding the strategy of uptake in a dedicated department or a unit that supports research uptake and outreach of the university is also an important choice. We can move now to the recommendations and key conclusions. The first one is that the development of joint, hybrid, and research-based Master of Science programs at country level requires a number of attention. It is good to involve one or two universities that have prior international experience, be it IUC experience, but that should be part of the network of universities working on a joint MSc program. Online learning and strengthening of e-pedagogy is key to the success, and it is important to review administrative processes to facilitate interinstitutional collaboration so that it is much easier to have that integration between the universities, and that needs sufficient time at the start and being monitored and improved. Capacity and mechanisms for engagement with private sector are also essential. Certainly, if we look at sustainability of funding of those joint programs. Second conclusion is that it is important to combine different complementary leverages and success that foster uptake of research results. We think that it should be a clear focus from the start of IUC programs, but network programs, so that it is essential also to have an ecosystem approach, considering supply and demand of research-based knowledge, technology, and to stimulate that uptake in understanding what are the partners, what are intermediaries required, etc. And so FLIRS has worked on a very interesting brochure on uptake, which was not really known, what was developed later and was not that well known by these, but already have a lot of the elements that we found. And so we think that that can be further developed and further promoted. Experiment projects that implement with impact-oriented planning and monitoring is also essential. We found that impact planning and monitoring was weaker aspect across the impact assessments that we did. And in some of the pilots, then we found that it is essential to invest in the capacity for collaboration. So the partnership paradigm should be part of the pathway of change, and to look at that, it is always important, and to have that. It is essential also to promote inclusivity. That requires more explicit policies and procedures on inclusivity, be it gender, be it whatever aspect of potential lack of inclusion of disadvantaged groups. We look at identifying hindrances to access to postgraduate studies in each context, and we believe that it is important to work on pre-PhD programs, on programs that enhance a pool of potential more diverse and qualified PhD candidates. Complaint mechanisms are interesting, and understanding what are the hindrances and attacking them. So complaints mechanism could be important, and broader support systems, for example, for young women with children that want to pursue their PhDs. Some interesting experiments and practice were already found and documented in the program level evaluations. And fifth, it is important that we acknowledge that effective coordination requires a multifaceted effort, combining hard and soft leverages. Then the last recommendations is that it is essential for FLIRS to treasure and preserve what it has as something unique is a long-term institutional support concept through the IUC programs. And this is fundamental in bringing universities at a higher level. We found that even though you clearly need to work on program fatigue, we found that progress continues clearly throughout the second phase, and that you need those 12 years perspective to achieve and to have the successes that were found. And it is very difficult nowadays to find this long-term commitment, and so we really suggest for FLIOS to treasure this. Lastly, fostering uptake should be a dimension of each IUC program. And uptake of research will start already in the first program with the component that looks at knowledge, at technology transfer, combined with intellectual property management that could be best fitting the context-specific needs, could come in more in detail in the second phase. But it is important that we align this also to developmental roles of the university, that we think about incubation and not only towards pure private sector driven, but also linked to impact entrepreneurship, looking at research and academic outcomes linked to the development roles of the university. Up to there, my presentation, and I hope it was useful and very. It would be my pleasure to respond to your questions or remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. So the floor is open for questions, as was said by Patrick. So please, if you want to speak up, you can raise your hand, or if that's difficult, come in directly. Any questions? We have here also audiences from different IUC generations, which is interesting because we have some of the representatives of programs that were evaluated, but we also have some IUCs that are in a first stage and for whom these lessons learned are, of course, also very interesting since they still have a whole trajectory to go. Mm-hmm. Anybody wants to kick off with a question?
May I have the question?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick, for the overview, which is very interesting for us. I'm from Queen University. We have been running the new IUC for almost 2 years. So in the presentation, you mentioned that the financial sustainability is still uncertain for the 5 IUC that just finished. But I'm wondering that because after 10 years, the capacity clearly enhanced. Then when the capacity research capacity of universities enhanced, the individual research at that university should be able to attract different fundings from for example, in Vietnam, there are so many funding, but which is selected for excellence. For those people with high excellency can be selected. Then that is, from my point of view, I consider that is a way of financial sustainability. But so in the evaluation, did you consider that aspects? That's my question.
Yes, and we've seen in different universities that capacity improved, and it is important also that, so we looked at the dimension that capacity did improve, but not systematically as much as you would want to. And so it is useful to work on that dimension even harder and further, because it is one of the elements. And that comes together with also the outreach, the collaboration on on results and impact. So these different elements, we did find improvements. So it was clear that we found that the IUC programs did contribute to enhanced financial sustainability, but the needs were high, and we were trying to see to what extent the support and the drive that came from the IUC would be continued. And so here and there were some needs, but fully agree on what you're saying, that is a fundamental aspect, and that should work on, and that enhancing academic capacity is the first, because you don't want to sell excellence if you don't have it, so you need to work on it. But then when you have it, you also need skills to connect. You need some other skills to make a good proposal for funding, which is not always the same. And so working on those skills, we've seen some examples, but it could be further improved, and it could be done from the start of the program.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. And I have one more question about the PhD students. You mentioned that that's the kind of lack of the pool of diverse PhD candidates. So a suggestion is that to consider the pre-PhD programs for the candidates from local universities. Yeah, but I think that this may be something from the Flemish side should be, like the VLIA may put more emphasis for the university from Flemish side. Yeah, because actually, we like if we want to improve capacity of the local university, we need to give them a support, and for especially for those people with less opportunities. So we have to give them some special opportunity to have the level of excellencies as equal as other candidates. But like for now, it's most of the supervisor from Flanders. They are still looking for excellency. So it's very difficult to bring this aspect into the IUC from the very beginning. So that's kind of my comment is that it would be good if VLIRUS give this message to the Flemish universities to like give more opportunities for people with less more vulnerable groups. Yeah, that's so.
Yes. So and that the clear point is that we don't want to sacrifice academic excellence for more better inclusion. We want to have both, and that requires efforts for the bridging. So identifying potential at local universities among groups that have high potential but not the same opportunities to be prepared, and so that could be done through special programs, etc., and for which funds are required. And it would be good that in the funds of new or ongoing IUCs, that some funds are reserved for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I see that there is a hand raised from Charles. So please, Charles, come. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Patrick, for the presentation. I hope, Peter, I'm audible.
Yes,
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Patrick, it was a nice presentation, and even sharing with us, your findings as far as the implementation of partnerships. But I must make a disclaimer. We are in activity period number 2. So by attending is just to learn the best practices which we could employ, so that by the time we finish either phase 1 and phase 2, we should be having excellent outputs and learning lessons. But having said that, I just wanted to know from your findings visiting the institutions that are implementing this IUC. What have they done, just the best practice of an institution? Because I see here in our institution, when you come at a policy uptake by government, institutional uptake, then the community uptake is excellent. But sometimes when it comes at an institutional, a government uptake, it becomes a problem both at local level and even at a national level. So I just wanted to know from you, the best practice, what we have seen, what we should do as a partnership to improve that aspect as a learning. Then related to that is, I would also have expected you, yes, the presentation you're saying, this is what has worked, but I would have loved to see what to avoid as partners who are involved in this IUC, what we should try to avoid, something that never worked, and how they overcame some of that hindrance to the implementation of the IUC. Then the third comment, probably that's the last one, I would also have loved to see your experience and learning lessons from the Flemish side of the coordination. For example, or what should we know, for example, as implementers of this IUC? What should we expect? What should we learn from the Flemish partner institutions so that we can bring it on board for purposes of improving the partnership? Those are my 3 short comments, Patrick and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. There are some different elements which are essential. I'll try to go through them. First of all, and I can sometimes combine some of your questions, is on uptake, and you relate to policy, which is important. And we found some progress, but less than we wanted, that we would want on policy uptake, and that requires a number of elements. And what universities should not do is to have all their resources and their, scattered in too many ambitions. So it is good to make clear ambitions on where do you want to achieve uptake, on what societal or economic or whatever areas and challenges do you want to make a difference as university, and being able to invest in that. So that is one thing. It is important to develop also your scholars' capacity as policy advisors. It is not because you're an excellent scholar that you are an excellent policy advisor. So that also, some have it as a natural talent, or they developed it through other non-academic activities, develop that capacity. But it remains very important, and it is important to do that. Participation in advisory groups, in forums, etc., are clearly pathways to develop these capacities. It can also be developed with coaching by experts in policy advice, and combining that with a clear focus on what are the societal or economic or other challenges that the university wants to make a difference, and understanding the type of partnerships that are essential, understanding the needs for contribution from university and from research. Combining all that allows to focus and to work on those kind of elements. If we look at I think that what you can learn from the Flemish University is, again, trying to know best what are your needs as university, and from there on, I think that, and that's the flexibility that should be required in each IUC or network program, and which is, we found it's usually there, is to really understand what are your needs, what are your priorities, and then look and reflect together with the project teams, with your Flemish partners on what they can contribute and how they can contribute. And I think that that willingness is clear, and making sure that it is also win-win areas, because it is also important that you engage in partnerships that are learning. And when we say about inspiring and learning, it's about inspiring and learning each other, both Flemish universities and the university partner universities in the south, learning from each other, working together, developing together, and coming to results, and seeing how they can do that together. And I think that will be the most inspiring of it. So the partnership paradigm is fundamental there as well. I don't know if I responded enough to your questions, and don't hesitate to ask further.
Yeah, it is very clear. It's very clear, Patrick. Very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can still have one question, and then we should move to the next session. But please, if there is somebody who still has a question, please come forward. I don't see any reactions. If you raise your hand okay, I see that somebody is raising his hand on the let's say in the view. Please come forward. You can talk. Yes, Lucen El Rafari, I think you raised your hand, or not?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Hussein El Rafari from Al Ismail University, Morocco. Thank you for for your presentation. I've just some idea to propose about how can disseminate some experience, some success story in the program about the different elements that reported by Peter. Can the videos put action on collecting some success story about this different element, and permit to different partners from South to exchange about this success story and do some benchmarking in order to promote to develop their idea. Because sometimes you have idea, but we don't have the approach that we can adopt and adapt to our environment in order to go ahead and work on. So candidates can help in this perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's an very interesting suggestion, and it's something definitely that we should be able to try and take on board, to have more exchanges on, let's say, success stories on the different topics. It can be uptake, but it can also be other topics. We want to have more sessions like this, but also give the opportunity to exchange among IUCs. We have, for the moment, we have also a forum which are the IUC, which are the community talks, but that's, let's say, for the broader community. I think it would be interesting indeed if we would be able to work on this within and among IUC partners from different generations, so that we can learn from the good practices, and that this can also inspire the newer programs. That would be indeed something that we need to work on. So we will take that suggestion with us for sure. Thank you.
So maybe just adding here is that already in our evaluation reports, we made some small examples each time, trying to summarize in half a page or in a few lines a good practice documented. And so to a certain extent, it would be possible in some knowledge base to get them out and making them accessible through some keywords, etc. so that you can access them in the reports or in another way. So that should be interesting. So, but we already made some steps toward that.
Indeed, something to work on. We also had, but this was not for IUC, an evaluation on uptake, which was done, which also had very interesting case studies and lessons learned that could be used. Not, I mean, they were from team projects, but they're as useful for IUCs, I would say. So that's something that an ambition for us also to look into, and how we can make those available and how we can exchange on these elements in a better way in the future. Thank you. Any other questions? Because otherwise, I think we had foreseen to move slowly to the next part of the meeting, which will be organized a number of brainstorm questions, but I don't see any other persons coming forward. So then I suggest that we round up this part of the meeting, and we thank Patrick very much to begin with, for the huge effort of his team in developing all these evaluations. It was a big task, 8 programs to be evaluated, always a lot of complexities to organize all of this. We have to thank all the IUC and network teams that were involved. We also have some partners here from finalizing IUCs and networks, so we have to thank them as well for all the support given and all the preparations and all the self-assessments. And of course, for today also for being able, Patrick, to join us here in this session again. This is very much appreciated. So then I will.
Thank you, and have a nice continuation.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. You can stay if you want. It's up to you. You don't. It's you can of course join us for the remaining of the sessions, but I understand that maybe you have other obligations. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Then I give the floor to my colleague Laura, who will, because we run out of time, to have a break. So if it's okay, we will continue and see whether the setup works. So Laura, I'm giving the floor to you.
Hello, everyone. So to facilitate a brainstorm session, several questions have been prepared. So I will launch the first question. I hope everyone can see it. Can you all see the first question? Perfect. And maybe if you're not able to see the entire question or answers, you can enlarge the screen yourself. Yeah. But one of my colleagues will go through this first question with you.
That will be myself for the first question. So we will have a few questions that are along some of the topics that were linked to the evaluations, but also elements that we think are important to take with us towards the new IUC call. It's the first question actually deals with matchmaking approaches. Most of you have been involved in the past in IUC matchmakings in different forms. The last generation went about it in a differentiated way. Because of COVID, we were all online. So that was a different situation. So we would like to discuss with you, but along so when you started your IUC, what were your experiences with matchmaking with the Flemish teams? What kind of approaches are feasible, do you think? And what strategies are most critical for achieving a broad participation at the Flemish higher education level? So not only with your coordinating university, but let's say that it's broader, different universities, also universities of applied sciences and arts, maybe you know it under the name of university colleges, that there is this, let's say, broad participation. So we actually included here a few statements, and I see that somebody already is responding, so that's fine. So it can be that you think that this is an exercise whereby the mapping should be done basically by the coordination teams, the appointed coordination teams in the Global South and at Flemish level, and that they should facilitate afterwards targeted contacts for each sub-project. That is an option. Another option that we had more like in the past is that, yeah, the visits to Belgium were considered as the first step and are undertaken in the IUC phase-in. But one of the criticisms that we had with that in the past is that, in fact, a lot was already happening before, informally, and this stage came too late. A third option, something that we are looking into, is light matchmaking that already occurs in the early preparation stages of the concept node. So like the last IUC generation knows, they had a first introduction of a concept node South, a sort of a letter of commitment, and then they developed it into a broader concept node. An option would be to include some light matchmaking at that stage, followed by limited team visits to Belgium. But this would all be facilitated by the coordinating university. And VLIRUS would only come in later when the programs are, let's say, in the phase-in, with trying to organize events connecting the different partners. So what do you think about these statements? Which ones do you think are, would you feel like being most convenient, or you feel like are the better options? You can add only one choice here. So please, everybody, try to respond, and then we can have a short exchange on this. We only have 3 answers. Is that correct, Clara?
3 out of, let's say, 13 people have responded.
Okay, now it's increasing.
So, yes, so now 7. Take your time, yeah, to reflect on it and provide your answer. I think now already 9 people responded. I will wait a little bit to give everyone the chance to respond. And then we can have a look all together to the results, and then we can discuss, because I see that there is quite some variation. There is no answer really standing out. So I think it would be good to also see why some of you prefer one approach more than the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. So apart from a small number of people, everyone responded. So I will. Normally, you should be able to see the results. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we can see that indeed there is some variation there.
Mhm.
Maybe, but I see that there is a slight preference for some guidance in this exercise by the IUC coordination team, so that they already do some kind of a, let's say, a pre-mapping, and it's probably also combinable with the light matchmaking approach, so that there are already some contexts, some identifications, and then there can be a more targeted matchmaking, let's say. That's what comes out most strongly here, but maybe some of you that have experienced matchmaking wants to take the floor and give their view on what is important in such a matchmaking, or what do they think about this? You can raise your hand also in the tool with in the Zoom, or you can also just speak up. Anybody wants to intervene? No? From the recent IUCs, maybe try to, can I ask from representatives from the new generation of IUCs how they yes, Nyan, please.
Yeah, maybe let's take the floor to share a few things about the matchmaking recently happened at with Queen Yon University. Yeah, actually, yeah, we did the matchmaking during the COVID time, so it was completely online, and yeah, the coordination team has done a lot of work. Up to now, we are happy with the team we have for our IC with 7 sub-projects. We have launched large group with coming from several university and also university colleges, and we find the right expertise for our IUC. Yeah, but it was a huge work for the coordination team. So yeah, with this question, I would prefer to I selected the third choice with like yeah, some connection in advance should be decided, and then yeah, some core team could come to Belgium, and then yeah, to work in, yeah, and then when we come to the Belgium, it may be that that you are, we can invite some colleagues from other university and discussion yeah, in person. It would be easier. So yeah, that's the something that I would like to share with you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nyan. I think, yeah, indeed, your generation had to do in a very complicated circumstances this matchmaking. So I can understand that you think that this third option would have been the better option if there would not have been a situation of COVID.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other opinions on this, on matchmaking? Also, experienced colleagues who have done several matchmakings can come in, of course. Nobody? I don't see any hands raised.
Yeah, hello, Isim Sabila
Yes.
here. Can I?
Yes, of course, Masabila, please.
Yeah, thank you. We're almost exiting now on the IC. I remember when we were doing the matchmaking, first, the time that was given the presentation and then pairing experience, that was not very realistic. If it wasn't for the already established relationship with some of members from the North, here I mean the coordinating universities, and also it was very important that the Northern partners also knew each other better, not just because they belong to one of the universities, but at least I saw that they were already having some collaboration among each other. I think that one also helped a lot to come up with the team that Lila was so successful in our IC, because having collaboration, you need better. So it was not only the event for us coming, sitting down, doing the presentation. What worked most better was the prior understanding of the members. So coming together, it was much easier. And so I support first to have relationships or some prior consultation before the actual matchmaking, which is more or less realization. Yeah, that's my idea.
Okay, thank you. So I understand indeed that early mapping and early contacts are important already, probably in a concept note stage, and not as in the past, the generation where we indeed had this matchmaking in a very quite later stages, so that in fact you're already informally speaking, and the matchmaking came maybe a bit late.
Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other opinions on this, or can we move to the next question? Yes, I don't see anybody reacting. So since time is going forward, I will give the floor for the next question to be introduced by, I think, Geraldine, if I'm correct.
Exactly. Yeah. Hello,
Can
everyone.
you already see question 2? Is it feasible?
No, this is question 1 still.
Not yet.
Question 1.
Not yet.
No.
Let me then first give an introduction to the second question. Yes, thank you, Laura. We can see it. So as Patrick already told you also during his restitution, one of the success factors in an IUC coordination is the conducive partnership between the partner institution and the involved Flemish higher education institutions. And of course, it is jointly managed and the person of a partner coordinator and a Flemish coordinator. We do acknowledge that effective project coordination is a combination of institutional factors, like, for example, a project manager, an ICOS at the Flemish site, procedural factors, like you have steering committee meetings, you have a PSU, but as well, interpersonal factors are important for an effective and successful IUC coordination. So this is the context of our second question. A lot is also expected from the IUC coordinators. So hence our questions: what constitutes the ideal profile of a partner coordinator, and how do they differ from Flemish coordinators? So you see there again a multiple choice, so you can check different answers. So I give you some time to fill in. Actually, I cannot see how many replied or so.
So far, 5 people have replied. Overall, we're 16, but let's say some of us are from Vleerjoos and don't necessarily have to reply. Now 7 people have responded. 8 people.
Okay,
So
we're getting there.
A couple of more minutes, so everyone has a chance to respond. Waiting for 2 more people, let's say. I'll give it maybe a little bit more time before showing the results. Okay, unless someone gives me a sign that they're still considering, otherwise I will show the results.
I think you can show the results, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there are 2 clear answers: some strong interpersonal skills, people management abilities, and the partner coordinator needs strong connections with local. Yeah, so this is in line with what Professor Albogas said, that the connection and knowing each other already is important. Does somebody wants to elaborate on this? But I also want to add the questions: do you see a difference between the skills and the competencies that a local coordinator should have and a Flemish coordinator of an IUC? Someone who wants to go first? Yes, please. I see Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Geraldine and team. My thinking is that as a partner, apart from having interpersonal skills or management skills, what comes out, because this institutional university collaborations where you have got different, academic units, different faculties, different schools, my experience and my thinking with the almost 2 years of this IUC, you need a partner who has got a strong linkage with the other colleagues in other faculties, in other units. If, for example, you are steer steer very well the partnership. Otherwise, short of that, you get, in other words, if it is your first time to have that linkage, that networks with the different academic, members of different faculties, you may find it's very, very difficult to implement the IUC. So that's why I personally vouched that we need strong connections with the local managers of the institution. And it should be at the faculty level, but also it should be at the top leadership level of the institution. Otherwise, short of that, then the partnership may not work out. My thinking, colleagues.
Yes, thank you. I think this is indeed a very important element, and you need to be able to move within the different departments and also have a link with the top management team, because we really want an IUC to be embedded within the institution. Thank you for your contribution. Somebody else? No. What we also, of course, we also have been thinking within VLIR US, and we also had this, yeah.
Yeah, I think the interpersonal skill is very, very important. I'm speaking from our experience, because at our local institution, you have even more than one faculty being brought together. And also on the other side, on the Flemish team, we had also almost 4 universities that were supposed to work together. So you see the diversity of such a team is very complicated, not only from the, let's say, the 1,000 partners, because there are also almost like 4. And some of the universities, you have almost 80 projects, which means it's like 8 institutions coming together. So I do support and I believe that the interpersonal skill, bring all this together, that's a very, very important character. And we have enjoyed a lot because of that. And if there is any failure to that, you can immediately see how the project or the program at large will be in conflict. So in our case, we went through both the time when the coordination was really missing those aspects, and also the time when the interpersonal skill very from experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. We can move to the third question, or I can also elaborate a bit what has been discussed last week, if we have time remaining. I don't know.
Well, we have 2 minutes if you want, and afterwards we have to move to the next question. So if you want to add something from conclusion from the meeting of last week, that's interesting.
Well, we also saw that you really need to be a people manager. So you really need to coach people, to motivate them, to inspire them, and making from individuals, bringing them together to work as a team. Also very important was to have some kind of conflict management skills, because you have different visions, different perspectives, and you work with different institutions together. So it was also important for IUC coordinator to find a way in remediating differences and come together to a consensus. Decisiveness, of course, so you need to be able to take decisions, to have a follow-up, to create an action plan, so it doesn't stay within words. And a change manager, we also identified as important, because of course you create change. That's the purpose of an IUC. We want to see change within the institution, within the community. So therefore you need to have a shared vision from all the different individual perspectives. You create a support base, so you all work towards a common goal beyond the different sub-projects. So this was a short restitution from the session from last week at the Flemish side.
Okay, thank you very much, Geraldine. I see no more hands raised, so I suggest that indeed we, if it's okay, we move to the next question then. Okay. Kathleen?
Okay, I will tackle this one with you. Question 3. So how should one approach multi-stakeholder partnerships and stakeholder management? And we also talked about it, I suppose, yeah, well, Patrick talked about it, that, multi-stakeholder partnerships are very important to create outreach, uptake, to have an impact with your projects. And so all the contacts that you have outside your university with civil society, the private sector, the authorities. So here you can also have more choices within the 3 choices that are given here. So the first one, stakeholders should be involved in a later stage, mainly in phase 2. Given that an IUC is linked to local development challenges, stakeholders should be involved from the start. And the third one, stakeholder mapping and analysis should lead to the establishment of a permanent stakeholder board. So you can give more than one answer, and we will give you the time to do this now. And I suppose the answers are coming in.
The answers are coming in. We have more or less 50% now.
Okay.
It's remarkable. 2 answers are, let's say, in favor, and there is one that has not been given as a preference yet. We didn't mention it before, but for this question as well, you can even choose two options.
Yes, I mentioned, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll give some last minute for the remaining few people to answer, but I think we already have a majority of answers. No answers are coming in, so I will share the results.
Thank you. Okay, so here we have 11% for the first one. Stakeholders should be involved in later stage. The second one, given that an IUC is linked to the local development challenges, it should come in earlier. And then the third one about stakeholder mapping was also appointed to be important. So anyone who wants to start and to defend why he or she has given this particular answer between one of the 3 or 2 out of the 3 of them? Someone who is willing to start? I can't see hands raised, not yet.
Yes, there is a colleague from Morocco.
Ah, okay, yes. And I also see James Marandou. But first was the colleague from Morocco, if I understand well, because I can't see it.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, thanks.
I think that it's very important to start by mapping and analysis of a situation on needs of stakeholders in order to have idea. During the preparation of a concept note, and it is a key to know exactly needs of stakeholders and giving him a chance to contribute to the concept note on doing a good analysis of mapping. And this ensure maybe a sustainability of their partnership during the project. That is my idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So you are in favor of starting it as soon as possible, as from the concept note, so that also the stakeholders can contribute as from the beginning. Thank you very much. I think that's very valuable. I also see a hand raised from James Morandu. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Kathleen. I think it's important to include stakeholders, not only from the start, but from the development of the concept note to conceptualize the actual needs. And of course, this will be a very important attribute towards scalability of the interventions, the uptake and adaptability when it comes to the outreach phase of the project. So inclusion of stakeholders, multi-partnership, it's very important from the creation of the concept note. You include the important stakeholders to make sure that they buy in what you are about to do. So the buy-in from the very start of the development of the concept note would essentially increase the likelihood of success towards scalability, uptake, and adaptability of the solutions that the program emphasizes to bring to the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, also very valuable indeed. It actually joins what has been said before by our Moroccan colleague, that it should start from the beginning, actually. Yeah? So to assure buy-in from stakeholders as from the start, and also to create uptake and the adoption of solutions. I also see a hand raised from Charles. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. My thinking on this, when you are developing a concept note from the beginning, you may have a vivid idea of some of the challenges faced by the community. But I would suggest our experience when we are developing our concept note is that we are within the community, but out of trying to ask them what was what they needed to. But once you come to the extended concept note, in other words, the final, design of the project proposal, my thinking this is where you need to involve them of the challenges faced by the community. So my thinking is that it's sort of like a progression. Extended, a concept note, minimal involvement, but of course,
I can't hear you anymore.
You should be in a position to know some of the challenges, but once you go to the extended concept note and further implementation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of the partnership, then.
Thank you, Charles. I couldn't hear everything, but you were frozen at some times. But yes, what I understood, I understood is that actually at the beginning it should be perhaps more at an institutional level, and then when you come to an extended concept note, then you can include the stakeholders. That was it. Yes. Okay. Yes. Also very interesting.
You have summarized it very well.
Yeah,
you have summarized it here very well, Catherine.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if there are any other reactions.
Maybe I would just like one reaction on the third one, which is actually on a permanent stakeholder board, whether there are any experiences with this at the level of your IUCs, really with a permanently functioning board during the, let's say, the 10 years of an IUC.
I see a hand raised from Nganvuti. Yes.
Thank you, Katsan. I would like to share a few things. Oh, I agree with the other colleagues that we start from the very beginning with the stakeholders. It is very important, and it lead to the easier uptake afterward. But we also need to involve some intermediate stakeholders to ensure that the uptake is possible. But sometimes the incentives for the intermediate stakeholders not always clear during our 10 years journey. So for we are still kind of a bit stuck with that. And also that sometimes we are not like we will base some topics on need like based on the needs of end user, but then it's not always they are not always clear what is their real needs. So knowledge transfer during the time we are doing we are working on the project, and like to have them realize that their real needs, and then we further develop from that. So and then so for the third option, to establish a board would be very useful. But as I say before that, because the incentive of some intermediates is not always clear, so that is not easy. Not easy to establish a board, including different stakeholders. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. I don't know if someone else has, experience with that. I see a hand raised from James. James, please go ahead.
Thank you, Kathleen. We haven't yet we haven't experienced having a board for the stakeholders, permanent board for stakeholders. But the best way to have a board to have a tailor-made board for specific interventions that could be possible, but holding a permanent board for 10 years, it's quite cumbersome. We had an experience of one intervention that we had a board for specific intervention, and it actually worked. So I would say that having a board for specific intervention, a tailor-made board for a specific intervention or specific project can be possible, but having a board for the entire program and holding it for 10 years would a bit be complex to handle such a board. And I would think that would at least limit the flexibility of the program. Having a board for 10 years would limit the flexibility of the program, but I think having a board for specific interventions and a tailor-made board for some projects within the program would be ideal in this case, in case of permanent boards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's very interesting to hear this. Yes. I don't know if there are any other interventions. No, I can't see any. I just want to develop a little bit on the conclusions of last week when we had our live session, that for MSP, it goes along with what has been said, so that it should start from the beginning to be successful afterwards and to have everyone on board. But it also said, and there it goes with the opinion of Charles of Must, that at the very beginning it's difficult to have all stakeholders on board, and that it goes progressively. So once that the concept note is getting more and more form, you can involve more and more stakeholders, so that also the idea of what you're going to do is clearer. And another thing that came out, which was also interesting, that is within an IUC, even though the faculty of social sciences is not included in the IUC, it is interesting to include them for the MSP mapping, for the stakeholder mapping, because they naturally have contacts with a lot of stakeholders outside the institution, and specifically with the civil society. So that's why it could be interesting to include them as from the beginning as well, even though they don't participate actively in an IUC. So that for the conclusions of last week. And I think we can move on to the fourth question.
Yes, the next question will be on the PhD trajectories. We all know that PhD trajectories within IUC are quite crucial, and that it is a whole procedure in selecting and giving guidance to PhDs that requires a lot of attention during the 10 years. Now we have a few statements here. Which of the following statements are relevant? You can answer with multiple choice, multiple options. The first one says PhD selection goes naturally through discussion among project leaders that discuss about what are really the project objectives and what kind of expertise is needed. And it really eliminates the necessity for formal selection and follow-up procedures. The second one says a well-defined plan for PhD selection incorporating pre-selection stages, maybe also with some kind of a pre-training already in the early stages of an IUC, earlier than what is happening now, already in the phase-in, to ensure that PhD candidates can effectively be selected in early stages and start their studies as early as possible. And then the third one says more basically, PhD candidates must have mainly a clearly defined trajectory from selection to follow-up. So it focuses more on the clarity in selection and follow-up stages. So you can provide us with your answers, please.
Already more than half of the participants have replied. So let's give a little bit more time for everyone to make their choice. And also here there is one very clear preference. I think we have all.
Yeah, I think we are complete, so we can show the results. And indeed, we see that most answers go in the direction of at least having to begin with already a clear trajectory from selection to follow-up stages, but that actually even a more broader plan and approach in terms of the PhD trajectories is something very important and should maybe be given more attention in the startup of an IUC as of in the early stages of a phase-in. So that comes back most strongly. There are also a few answers rather saying that it's more like a natural process of in the flow of a project, and giving less emphasis to this the broader setup. Any comments or insights or that you would like to add to this? Somebody wants to come forward and give his opinion on how to approach these PhD trajectories? Yes, Nyan?
Yeah, may I comment on that? Yeah, like for the first choice, if like we let it go naturally, then it is very difficult to include gender and LNOP. So and also that it's is not always go along with the strategy of the capacity building of the university. So it should be it should be make it in formal way, one plan from the coordination to the sub-project team. So I prefer the second choice. And also for the second choice, that's one good point is that we should select the PhD candidates from the phase-in, and then then it's much easier to start the PhD earlier. Like our experience up to now, we still have one position. We haven't selected the candidates. It is difficult to find the right person with all the criteria so we have in our IUC. And for the third choice, of course, I believe that the well-defined trajectory for PhD candidate is necessary to get success for their journey. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nyan. Any other comments or?
I think one of the key challenge we went through was the selection of the PhD candidate. And for us, I think it's really important, number 2 option. Not only that, I may add also saying that it should be a team which is truly representative. Probably some not sure that the member from the North, they're also going to attend, whether through Zoom or any other form of participation. But also the local team should also be very inclusive, ensuring that it also represents the management and whichever unit is responsible for PhD in the local context. And the early stages is quite important. But also we encountered some of the challenges, I think largely was because some of the PhD were not oriented. What are they expected? Because the way we go through PhD in Tanzanian context, I'm speaking from my case, is a such different from the North team. So having issues clearly defined in the beginning, what's expected, deliverables, missions, things when you are not allowed, etc. It was very, very important to be done prior to the program to smoothen the entire PhD trajectory. But I'm still very happy that we adjusted. And among the PhD, almost all of them, they were successful in completing within time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All very valuable aspects that we can take on board. And also, I will say that in the meeting last week in Brussels, and there is a presentation which was given by one of the professors who works on PhD trajectories in Ethiopia, together with a network program that works around postgraduate education challenges in Ethiopia. And they had also quite some interesting insights to share. So we will see in a later stage whether we can also share this presentation one way or another with you. And since these are elements that are being tackled by many of the IUC programs that we have, of course. And even knowing that situations and contexts are always a little bit different, quite a number of challenges come back. But what we hear is that it's maybe a process that we should give more attention in the phase-in than we did in the past. That is already something that is very clear, I would say. I see that there was a comment in the chat also.
Yes, in the chat from Charles. When writing the project, should selection of PhD be a major activity?
Well, it depends, of course, on the. It's not. It's of course an important element when you in an IUC when you define your different sub projects. I'm not sure whether it would really be something of the writing experience. It's more as when the teams are constituted and the coordination team is there, and then we have the first context with the sub project leaders. That from the early stages there are actually discussions on how to go about this whole process of PhD identification and selection within those projects where it's relevant, because you might also have a number of sub-projects that are less orientated towards PhD capacity training and where it's maybe less important, but that there is at least at the level of the IUC a developed strategy which is discussed as early as possible, and that it finds its place in the management manual of an IUC, as it say, and that it doesn't remain only a document, but really is something that is followed up on during the different years of activity as well. Any other comments? Because we are running out of, yes, one, last intervention. Yes, please.
Thank you, Peter. On the experience that we have during the first phase of the IUC in Morocco, I can say that before PhD selection, candidate can have a chance to know about the program and about the sub-project where they are going to work in the lab or on the field. And during selection, we can give him occasion to put on some idea on their program research linking to the project. And on this way, the student can know which work where they are going to do in the program and how can they be inclusively in the program. So it will be maybe another way to have a success in the research program. Because if we can do a selection without giving him idea about this program, in the future, maybe the student can have a problem to follow the program, and the IUC program can have a return of investment. Of course, that what is our goal is to contribute to the training of students, but we are looking for a return of investment of our program to have an effective student which is working and giving some results which can transfer to the stakeholders. So if we have the students have idea about which they are going to do during the program, they can contribute with some idea can they develop during their research.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. So that's certainly also very important to take on board for the new IUCs. I think there are no other comments, and we should go to the last question now. So please, colleagues, if you can share the last question.
Yes, and I will tackle this one again together with you. Based on your experience, what are the most critical training requirements during the phase-in of an IUC? And there you can give more than one answer. The first one is technical presentations on VLIR-US grant system and the theory of change, financial guidelines and formats, higher education policies and management, the SDG principles, gender policy, and uptake and dissemination. So please go along.
Also here you can answer with multiple.
Yes.
The question or the answers rather are coming in slowly, but of course we have also more
yes
possibilities in answers, so maybe that
sure.
I also see James already has a question or something to contribute, but I'll give everyone a little bit more time to provide their answers, and then we can go into the discussion. Only 5 people have answered so far, so okay, the responses are still coming in.
Yeah, we can wait a bit.
Yes. Yes, they're still coming in, but not all of them have responded yet. So still waiting for 3 more people. Unless no trainings are needed. Okay, 2 more people. And here there is maybe not a clearly outstanding answer, although there is one that has a slightly more preference than others, but it's not outstanding. Maybe I'll close the poll and then show you all the results.
Okay, so here we have them. A high percentage for the first one, technical presentations on the Vleer-West grant system and a theory of change. And then the second one, financial guidelines. Third, higher education policies. And then the other 3 have a bit less attention. So I already see a hand from James. Would you start? Would you like to start?
Sorry, this is Jennifer, because we are together with yes,
okay,
we are
okay,
together
thank
with
you.
James.
Hello, Jennifer.
So, yeah, hello. Yeah, so for me, yeah, we have been implemented the IUC, and my project was on the capacity building. And this one, I want to link with what you have indicated there as a gender policy. I think we need to go further. Yeah, so we need to have policies which embrace diversity rather than gender. When you say gender, people just concentrated on gender policy. So for me, I want like the diversity to come out more clearer, so that when we do, we just touch all the policies which embrace, and I think gender policies one. So there is safeguard. There are a lot of policies which embrace diversity. So I wanted to add that. So we didn't tick the gender maybe because it was just only a single policy. So the next phase that it's the most important. And being the one also who was also involved in the past IUC project. So I think the theory of change, I think we need to put more emphasis on the theory of change, because if we don't understand, I think it will be very difficult to have a project which touch the needs of the people in the society. And also, I think we needed to include something like, the monitoring, the MEL, which now is like monitoring, evaluate, and learning. I think that component is very important from the beginning, because if you don't have the right indicators, at the end of the day, you'll end up failing answering. And these indicators, we touch both the qualitative one and the quantitative. Because when you deal with theory of change, when you are writing, when you are putting all the indicators, I think that is the most important. Thank you. Yes, so that is what I can share.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Yes, actually, our policy regarding gender has also evolved and includes diversity, actually. So yes, you're right. But then last week it gave a little bit of discussion though, if gender needs to be named apart, or shall we just say diversity? Because if you say diversity, perhaps gender would be drowned in it, and it may not come out sufficiently. So that's a discussion, actually. We don't have the answer yet, but that was a bit of a discussion. But yes, in our policy, it also has evolved to diversity. And
maybe I can just add there. It would be nice to have a definition, because a definition is a context based. So when you say gender, I think in your context as various, you could put the definition so that people in the South, they don't only look on the one single policy. So they need to also to touch. Yeah, it can remain as gender policy, but I think the definition is like including, because they are disabled, they're like minority. It's like, so you just put the definition so that everyone will understand when you say gender policy, that is what it's meaning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. It's that's very valuable. Thank you. And I also wanted to say that now, because I don't know, you're not from a new generation IUC, I think.
Mzumbe.
Mzumbe, okay. Yes. Yes.
Mzumbe.
Because now in the new generation IUCs, we do emphasize more the monitoring of the theory of change, also with qualitative and quantitative indicators. So yes, that has been included already. Yes.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I don't know if there are other reactions. No. Is there explanation why we have such a high percentage on technical presentations on VLUS grant systems and theory of change? Would anyone like to discuss about it? Why you have chosen this? Because 88%, it really comes out compared to the rest.
Yeah, maybe just a statistics thing. Like in reality, it's only one voice or one vote more than the other.
Yes.
So,
and I think, of course, it's a multiple choice option here.
Yes.
So, and I think indeed it would be strange if people would say we don't need technical presentations on the IUC system when you start an IUC. So it's somewhere a bit logical. Actually, we're running to the end of the session. It's already 12 o'clock. So I think we would like to close the session here. I mean, I think we can finalize on this question. This was also the last question. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your participation. And I think we also were quite happy with the different evaluation processes that we had. And we were happy to be able to share some of the synthesis analysis of the evaluation like presented by Patrick Stoop. And now what was clear is that the success of the programs, even if we are talking a lot about the challenges and about elements that could be improved, I want to highlight that actually all program evaluations were very positive overall, and that it also showed really a lot of very beautiful results of outreach and impact at level of the surrounding societies of the different IUCs. Also the network programs showed very strongly that they were very special in, let's say, stimulating collaboration processes and interinstitutional cooperation in an in-country setting, like in Vietnam, in Ecuador, and in Cuba. Now we know that at level of the IUC, we still have some elements, some challenges that are also normal in let's say, in partnerships. We need to continue working on the quality of the partnership, on the quality of the coordination of such programs, on the interpersonal skills like those that were mentioned. So all of this remains a challenge, and these are elements that we want to take on board towards the future on how we can maybe also provide more guidance on this and specify or special trainings maybe. So these are things to look into. Now we hope also to improve the quality of the consortia and the quality of the multi-stakeholder partnership setups in the different programs, also a big challenge towards the future. Not that it was not good in the past, but I think we always can work and try to improve, let's say, the general structure of the IUC program. So we will try to take all the input of last week and of today with us to also be integrated in the upcoming call for IUC for new programs, but of course also for the programs that are ongoing. There are lessons learned that we want to take with us towards the formulation of the second phase. I think this is also extremely valuable. So thank you all for joining us here. Thanks to my colleagues for all the work done to make these events possible. So I hope also that we can do more of these kind of exchange sessions, and maybe we can do a session among IUCs on where we can develop some of the impact cases or where we can exchange on the success stories. I think that would be something nice to have a look at in this or in the following year. So maybe some ambition for ourselves to organize such an event in the future. Thank you very much.